Welcome to Clubby, everyone. My name is Chum Street. I think I've met every single person here. Our upcoming events, I just want to highlight those for you. Tomorrow in Minneapolis, we have Upsize Magazine and Club E will host a mergers and acquisitions, and that starts at 11 a.m., and that's tomorrow at the Minneapolis Club. April 12th, the Minneapolis Club E will also have Confessions of a Chronic Entrepreneur with Larry Abdo. And then we're back here April 18th. Those details are coming out to you this week. Our luncheons are supported by sponsors, and I want to acknowledge them and thank them. The University Club, Olson Thielen CPAs, a regional accounting and consulting firm, Schwegman, Lundberg, and Wisner, IP attorneys for tech companies, the Irish Titan, which is an e-commerce digital agency, my company, ID Shield and Legal Shield, providing identity theft and legal protection, and Sunbelt Business Brokers of Minnesota, helping you buy and sell your business. And we actually have a couple representatives from Sunbelt today, and I'd like to just introduce them, William and Don. Do you want to say a couple words? A few words?
Sure. Several of you we've already met. Hello again. So Sunbelt Business Advisors and acquireandgrow.com works with, Dawn and I more specifically work with companies that are looking to grow through acquisition. So they are seeking opportunities to expand through that acquisition and growth opportunity. Sunbelt also works with companies that are looking to exit and they want to transition their business. So mergers and acquisitions. Glad to be here. Thank you.
And then William, you have some specific, Don, a specific domain expertise.
Yeah, so our background is in consumer products, specifically within the cosmetic arena, things like hair care, skin care. That's our specific area of expertise.
And Rick is hosts Clubby Minneapolis. If you have any questions about that group and want to get on his list, please see Rick Brimacombe. I have a very old statistic, that the only one that I could find by Forbes. It's from 2013, so the numbers are obviously going to be larger, but there's 543,000 businesses that start each month, but actually more than that shut down each month. So I'm excited to have our panel here today, hopefully to share some insights about their businesses and startups. We have Rick Kuntz, sorry about that, with Upstream Technologies, Michael Segal with Tinkit, and Raza Hassan from TimeSolve. And I'm going to start off right away with them just sharing more about their background and what their companies do so that we have an understanding. And then right after that, we'll open it up to questions. I'll start us off with some, but we're more than happy to take any questions. I know that some people came specifically for the topic, so please feel free to get your questions ready after their introductions are done. Would you like to start us? Yes.
All right, I guess I'll start. My name is Raza Hassan, and I'm the CEO of TimeSolve. I've been running TimeSolve for the last 11 years. Just a bit of background, been living in Minnesota for over 25 years, so I consider myself now almost a native Minnesotan. I love snow. I'm an avid skier, and then I also ride bikes, I guess, during the summertime. So I do everything that is available and Minnesota has to offer, both in the winter and the summer season, so I don't complain about weather ever. My background, I started out as an engineer developing software, but I wanted to be doing stuff on my own, so I went to the U and got an MBA, and while I was in the MBA program, that was the time I learned about the internet, and I felt like this is going to change the world. So I decided that I'm going to just devote my life to whatever internet applications I can get into. So I switched jobs. I used to work for Northwest Airlines, and I worked at multiple web application companies in town and ended up eventually at Thomson Reuters. And I was looking for opportunities to go off on my own, to reduce my risk, and I guess find an opportunity where it can be, I can sort of hit the ground running. I took on a business that was failing at Thomson, made a deal with them, and the business of TimeSolve was spun out about 11 plus years ago, and we have been running it and growing it, so we'll talk more about that. So that's my background.
Hi, I'm Michael Siegel, and first I'd like to thank Chum and Rick for all you do for the entrepreneur community here. I mean, I've been coming for about a year or so, and just really nice to see a lot of familiar faces, and for anyone new, thanks for plugging into what's going on, and what you guys are doing is great. My background is I've been a sales and marketing leader in a lot of startup and emerging growth companies my whole career, both in consumer products, food companies. So I started my career in a frozen baby food venture that was started here in town. That moved me to California. Then I started a retail mapping business before you could map online, and built a software company there that we use the software to actually sell printed map books to reps in the field. I went and sold Hispanic cheese all over this country, and actually international. Then I went and worked with a Hispanic and kind of mainstream media companies, and find myself in another startup. So part of what I've done all along is just helping to grow a following and get early revenue for these companies, and then often it was to some eventual exit. So now I'm the co-founder and CMO at Tinkit, which just means I have to go get users. What Tinkit does is we have built a calendar that makes scheduling a meeting as easy as sending a text. And we have a few friends here who have graciously volunteered to beta test with us. And thanks. We're going to be going out to the App Store next month, so we're super excited. But we're really trying to solve a very complex problem, which is coordinating time and place with each other and getting those finalized events on our calendars. And it's sort of a colossal mess, and it was a pain that we were feeling ourselves. And so we said, we better do something about it.
About now. There we go. Okay. My name is Rick Kuntz with Upstream Technologies. This is the third startup I've been involved in. The first one was a number of decades ago. It was a spin-off out of the University of Minnesota called Cyber Optics. When I started there was about 10 employees, and we did $500,000 in revenue. And I left 10 years later, and we were doing $40 million in revenue, and there's over 200 employees. And then I started my own software company and ran that for 10 years. That's still running, but I turned it over to an autopilot system that it just manages itself online. And now I'm with Upstream Technologies. I've been there a couple of years, and I'm the CEO. And I left a little brochure for everyone, just in case you're interested. In order to understand the clean tech that we're in, I'm going to paint you a quick picture. Imagine a square mile of open countryside. Nice rolling hills, grass, trees, and a nice little creek running right down the middle of it. Now imagine dropping a city on that same square mile. Concrete, tar, buildings, 90% of the surface area is impenetrable, so when it rains, the rain can't infiltrate into the ground and replace the water table. With all those people, they need water, so they're punching wells, sucking all the water out of the water table, and the water table is dropping. And instead, all the water, when it rains, runs into that little creek, and we'll call it Minnehaha, and all the sediment, the dirt, the grass clippings, everything is coming off the street, and it's out of sight and out of mind, and goes down that little storm drain at the end of your driveway and the curb. And it disappears, and you don't even think about it. But it's ruining our creeks, our lakes, it's killing lakes, it's putting dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico. Puget Sound is dying. Chesapeake Bay already died, and they're bringing it back now. And that's all because of stormwater runoff. So we make products that go down in manholes that clean the water upstream of the problem. Because once it's out in a lake or a creek, you can't fix it. It's too late. So that's why we're Upstream Technologies. We solve it upstream. And we're selling those devices across America. We started in Minnesota. and it's doing quite well. They're federally mandated now to solve this problem. And our product is 5 times less expensive than the nearest competitor. So we're having fun with that, and that's what we do. And any questions you might have, I can answer later or look at the brochure. Thank you.
I would love to start us off, and my question is, why should anyone start or not start a business, or how do you validate that your idea has some legs? I meet people all the time. I was at Dave's entrepreneurial event a couple weeks ago, and there was hundreds of people there, and I'm always curious as to where they get their start and why they're doing it, and if it's going to go anywhere. Anybody want to start?
All right, I guess I did not do a plug for TimeSolve. Sorry, as Rick did a much better job, and he's got brochures, and he might walk away today with some checks. TimeSolve provides the ability for attorneys to collect money. That TimeSolve pays them. So if you're looking for money for your work, we'll help you collect the money. We provide a billing software that is also integrated with the payment system, so you can get your bills out if you're a professional service provider. We target attorneys, but any type of a professional service provider can use our system to get their bills out and get paid. So if you're having any difficulty collecting your money for your time and effort, please talk to me. All right, now I'll go to the question, okay, why should you start a business? Few things I would share with you is live for your passion. Do not live for money. As it was mentioned by Stuvie. Sorry, you go as Stuvie or Chum?
Chum.
Chum, okay, I love the name, that's beautiful. A lot of businesses fail, so what's going to be successful is, in my opinion, a big unknown, all right? If somebody knew what product was going to work, Microsoft, Google, Apple are sitting with a ton of cash. They'll be making everything with that formula. So you have to be passionate and have the passion drive some craziness that you believe in what you want to do. I believe people aren't stupid, people are just scared. I mean, most of us human beings, if something we take on, we have the God-given talent to not, to me, if you're not gonna die, it's okay to do. So most of the time, people fail in business, but they usually are not dying. So it's okay to try it. So the question again, why you should start a business is, if you have a passion and you want to devote your life towards it, it's always good to try something versus not trying something. So that's the reason, but understand that failure can take place, and if it does, no big deal. It's just like shooting a basketball, and not all balls that are shot go into the hoop. So you just keep shooting, okay? So that's the reason I would say that, people should start a business. The other thing is, it is a very big, contribution to the society. You employ people, you create opportunities for other people. That's what makes this country run, and again, the business of America is business, so whatever you can do to promote it, you are adding value to the rest of the human beings.
That's a great question. I was listening to a podcast like last week, and I had never heard this definition of an entrepreneur before, but it was an entrepreneur is someone that throws himself off of a cliff and builds an airplane on the way down. So yeah, I don't know why any of us do this, but a few things that sort of come to mind is just sort of an undying or absolute conviction that you're going to solve a meaningful problem. And it just really has to be, if I don't do it, maybe it won't get done, and I want to do it the way that I want to do it. And so it just has to be this unwavering, because I think one of the biggest challenges with starting a business is you're told no constantly. It's a dumb idea. It won't work. You're proven in the marketplace why it won't work so many times. And really trying to iterate and iterate to say there's got to be a better way, and really find those places of innovation are really critical. The other quality that I wouldn't go into it unless you have some serious perseverance. And you really got to be able to willing to stick it out through kind of the ups and downs. And there are more downs than ups, or more ups, more ups, I guess, in terms of just effort. And the ride down, the good parts are fewer and farther between, but they're there. And I guess the third reason would be potentially you want that kind of lifestyle where you're your own boss and you're able to do the things that you believe matter the most and live your life with sort of that kind of intention. And yeah, we work crazy hours, but I can do them at home, I can do them at my office, I can do them all over the place. So there is a little bit of a lifestyle attached to it, which isn't all bad. I mean, I've made some choices in my career so that I could be around when my kids were growing up. And I've had jobs where I travel a lot, but then when I was home, I was able to have some flexibility, so.
I think one of the questions was, how do you know if your idea is good, or whether or not it'll work? I've seen a lot of products get developed and developed and developed until it was so perfect that how many years went by and they missed their opportunity, or then they finally get it out there and nobody really wants it, or they can't afford it. One of the things that we've done is go out and sell it before you get too far involved. I mean, hang a price tag on it, go ask somebody to buy it, and see how they react, and listen to how they respond and what they answer. That's how you determine whether or not you need to change the product, or it's not going to work at all. Is try to sell it first. You can be honest with your customers. We don't have this yet, but we can make it. If it was $2,000 for this thing, how many would you buy? And then listen to their answer. And that'll tell you before you invest too much into it.
Anyone going to chime up? Should I continue with my questions? Okay.
Can we add some more?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing. There's a great book called Getting to Plan B, and it's been really helpful in my career. What it talks about is find the most pressing and burning leaps of faith you're trying to prove, and prove them as fast and inexpensively as you can, which could mean it's a thought. We can build this thing that can do this, and I need to prove that someone would buy it. It could be that I've got a drawing on some paper about an app and go out and try to validate that there's actually interest in that app without going and finding someone to build the app because you're just not there yet. So that's been really valuable for me is, what can I prove in the market that already exists, right? So if I need to build a payment system for my app, I don't have to prove that that is something I need to get done. It's been done 100 times. Maybe I don't know how to do it. That's not my burning question right now. My burning question is, does anybody care to make scheduling easy? Right? I want to go out and find those people, or find enough people to know how many people feel that way. Do they feel like I do? So just some simple research. It could be I have to build a little prototype, which was the next level up for us, is I've got to build enough, but I didn't want to hire 12 engineers to go work on it and build it. I hired one part-time to just get me the nuts and bolts and clear some technical hurdles. So you don't always have to build an entire product or an entire service before you can just prove out that those work, and then figure out what's the next burning question I got to prove.
Right, I would like to add, but I would like to know a little bit more about the audience. I mean, how many people are here developing products, or entrepreneurs, or just regularly crazy people, I guess? Okay. All right, great. So, yeah, I think another thing I would like to add to figuring out if your product has legs, you have to focus on some area that you have expertise in. All right, so all I'm saying is, if you right now are selling, trying to see what I can say without offending anybody, if you're trying to sell right now, rental housing or something, don't think that you want to build an airplane which is going to go faster. So just focus on your strengths. I hope you know what you like and what your experiences are. And then look for opportunities there, look at competition. I mean, that's one sort of a journey of analyzing what's out there to figure out if your product has legs. And again, I guess I'm stating the obvious, what is the unmet need, but I think to really know if you have an idea or a product, I concur with Rick, is I call a product when somebody is willing to pay for it. As we are developing products in our company, our developers typically ask me that, please ask or tell us to make products that somebody's going to pay for. And I tell them that if anybody knew that up front before building something, it's, we'll be doing something bigger, better. So the point I'm trying to make here is that I think, as other panelists have mentioned, build something small, simple, but to know that you have a product and not an idea is when somebody is willing to pay for it. Because human brains work in strange ways. Unless you ask for money, you don't know if you're getting the real truth. So that's what I would really ask you to focus on.
Okay. So I actually just read in Grant Cardone's book that his 10x book, that every business or project is vastly underestimated in terms of how long it will take. It's a very common problem, and it'll take 2 to 3 times longer than expected. So I would love to hear and we could take a mini poll here in this room, but your experience in terms of time frames. I know you've talked about some of your companies and what they've done, and what's your experience with how long it takes and what people's expectations should be in terms of time frames.
True.
Yes.
I mean, it takes longer and costs more, always. Even with the kind of this go around with some experience, it's still proven to be the case, no matter how much you think you know. So there's really, if you're raising money, raise more than you think you need, right? And the best kind of enemy against time is trying to stay focused and really try to narrow and keep the sandbox small in terms of what you're trying to prove. And I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to want to be on to the next great thing, and our minds wander. And I mean, I suffer from it in my prior lives and still do sometimes too, but you really have to be protective of what are you trying to do first and get after it and prove it before you distract yourself, because that's a time waster, is as soon as you start chasing something else, it wastes time.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy. It's all true. You can ask my wife about my home improvement projects. It'll take 2 weeks, but it takes 3 years. But when it comes to product development, I think expect it, so put into it phases and sell it in every phase. That way you can get some revenue coming in. And you can always offer people, if you buy it now, these features that are coming, we'll give them to you free later on. I mean, there's ways to manage that, knowing ahead of time that it's going to take longer than expected and keep revenue coming in.
I guess just to add on again, time is strange. We think we have more, but unfortunately it's only 24 hours per day, and that is one commodity that is limited. You can have all the money, but not any more time. So really be focused on time and treat time more precious than money. A lot of times if I ask people, hey, give me $100, they'll be asking me 20 questions. But if I say, okay, can I talk to you for 20 minutes? They're more open to it. So just be very protective of your time, because like I said, time is very precious. In terms of figuring out what it would take, a couple of things I would say is that I'm assuming as an entrepreneur, you're trying to solve something new. If you're trying to do something new, you're not going to know everything up front. So do not feel discouraged or frustrated that, okay, my team is taking longer. Understand that this is the name of the game you're getting into. Okay, you're trying to solve something new, and if you know everything up front, then that's not a problem to be worth solving. The second thing I would say is that we think we are much bigger than we really are. Somehow we feel, I mean, anytime you're going to be building any business, you're going to be working with other people. Somehow we think that they're going to work as fast as I can think. But in reality, you have no control over how they are going to work. You can just influence and lead them. So the point I want to make here is that focus on peddling and effort. Not get frustrated with time, because if you feel like you're in control, you're just going to be frustrated. You're not in control. The only thing you control is peddling. So just keep peddling and just consider this as a journey. You'll get there when you get there, and pedal faster, but getting anxious and frustrated won't do anything for you positively. All right, so that's all I have.
Okay. We talked, someone brought up raising money. I know that's a huge area for startup businesses especially. Can you talk about some of your experiences in financing and raising money? Do you want, anybody can start? Sure.
It's hard. That was perfect.
Ditto. Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with businesses that we're fortunate to have either already gone through funding or had some early success with it, and some that are still on the kind of the cutting room floor, if you will, because they couldn't raise enough capital to, even with great ideas. So I'm not great at it, but you have to make it your priority. When your business needs money, that's got to be your #1 job, and it will take way more time than you ever would imagine. You'll get told no for a lot of reasons. Some of them are rational and some of them are not. But I know there's a lot of great stories out there of, you know, household names that we know today that got 27 no's or 243 no's before they got 1 yes, and then they're, I don't have the example off the top of my head, but it's pretty common that if you have that conviction, but you've got to go out and knock on doors, and depending on your stage, it's usually it starts with yourself, then it's friends and family round, then it's sort of angel investors, maybe laddering up to venture capital or bank partners, et cetera. So really, depending on the stage, but yeah, it's a full-time effort sometimes.
I do not have any success stories here. I've had a lot of conversations, and again, I am not waiting for external funding to show up. We were, as we started, were self-funded with the partners that we started out with. So one thing I would suggest is, if you're starting out a business, you're as good as your team. So if you don't have enough money, figure out people who believe in what you're trying to do and have them as a team self-fund, and then see how far along you guys can get. And then if you're successful, unfortunately, my experience has been that most investors are looking for numbers that, if I can find those companies, I would put my money there first before I would want their money to be put on, my own business. I mean, they're looking for, 30, 40% growth with, I guess, 30, 40% margins and all that. And to me, I don't know where you find those companies, because if anybody knows them, I would like to put my money there. But that's what I've come across. And again, as a, I guess, online company and as a SaaS company, it's considered a hot area. There are lots of inquiries, sometimes on a daily basis. So I just ask them one-line question: what qualifies for you to invest money in this type of a business, so that I'm not wasting my time, because I have done that. But there is still interest, but I have not received any checks. Once I do, I'll come back and let you hear more about it.
I was just going to add one more thing, which is I've seen a little bit of a shift in terms of the strategy of raising money outside. And I mean, I've built plenty of business plans and really complicated financial models, particularly in consumer product companies. And one thing that's guaranteed is whatever your plan is, you won't meet it, and it'll change. But lately, I've seen a lot more people raising significant capital off of a pitch deck, right? Especially early stage, where you don't have all the answers, you're not expected to know all the answers, but you need to have a compelling story in a way, for your investors to see what they're going to back, right? A lot of it's going to be the team, and it's the vision, and that does this team have the skills to pull it off in an early? But we raised money last spring on about a 25-page deck, and had 26 different investors in Tinket, and not that we didn't have some idea of a financial model and a go-to-market plan, but it was something that could fit on a slide. It wasn't a 27-page financial model and a bound business plan, because we know at this stage it's not worth the energy to build it.
I know you talked about, Raza, 30 to 40% growth, and we chuckled, but as a startup, how do you measure, or what do you measure, and how do you measure what is working and what's not working at the startup and as your company evolves?
All right, so it's a loaded question to figure out what's working and what's not working. Again, I would say that you have to have, we always want to think of long-term plans, but as a startup, the plans are going to change. So at least have some short-term plan. It could be just for a quarter and see if you have been able to accomplish it. But I think at the end, I personally, maybe it's not something I should promote, but I don't focus too much on plans. I focus on effort and sort of having a passion, because in business, it's very difficult to know what's going to trigger a lot of growth, especially in the internet world. I mean, you can create something which can take off in a very short order, or it can be something that's going to drag forever. So there are really no well-known answers. So the best thing is to just focus on effort and focus on progress versus trying to figure out, are we on track for the plan and all that. I mean, that's good for large established businesses. But I think if you're in this internet economy, it's really hard to know what's going to fly. So again, your passion and your interest is what should, if you want to get out of the bed in the morning thinking you're going to change the world, that's what matters.
For me, in our business, the biggest thing is cash flow. A spreadsheet that goes out 3 years, and we're monitoring the cash flow from month to month. And when we get to cash flow positive, that's when success is hit. And we're about 2 months away from that, so it's looking really fun. And that's when we don't need investment dollars to stay alive, but need investment dollars to grow, and that's where we're at now. So that's been a milestone for us anyway.
Yeah, I think it depends on how your business, what makes it tick in terms of what is important to you to measure. So is it satisfaction of your customers? Is it revenue growth? Is it profitability? And then, for us, it's user acquisition, and really it's user retention. And so every business has their kind of conversions of things that if I go and try to sell 100 people, how many of them show interest, and of those, how many ask for a proposal, of those, how many convert. And so measuring those different conversions, and what we've done is you just do it's a test and learn right? So constantly trying to A and B test different ways of improving that conversion. So if 12% convert, it depends on what you're converting. That could be good, that could be bad. But how am I constantly trying to improve those little pieces that are important in whatever my sales funnel or my funnel that are measuring the important milestones of my customer journey, and finding ways, whether it's I need to get out and speak more, I need to do more paid consumer, I need to do more social media marketing or whatever it is, and then it's a test and learn and small investments first, and then try to kind of double down and keep doubling down until you feel like you've got a winning formula, and then that you might want to, you know, really pour some gas on the fire at some point once you go, okay, this is a predictable channel. If I can live at 12%, and now I need to go get 1,000 people into the funnel instead of 100, I need to increase that investment and get them to drive through, but always test and learn in small bets.
With a lot of startups not having employees at the beginning and just having to do wear so many different hats, how do you gentlemen balance time between high-level strategic issues with in the weeds tactical things that you need to do?
Part of it is that it answers itself. You do need to do the high-level stuff, but that seems to be more of the smaller percentage. And then you got to get down in the weeds and roll up your sleeves and do the work. But it does kind of balance itself. But you have to do this kind of thing and go around and raise money, and so put on the suit and do the work. But it does balance itself.
You can just keep that on.
Okay.
All right, so question of balance between strategic and tactical. Just note that in general, tactical is going to eat up your strategic time. So another thing is that in a product business, your mental capacities come into play of regarding your success. It depends on what you guys have thought about, how much, I mean, part of it is luck, but it's also, you know, that's not in your control. So the more minds you can put together to help you succeed is, to me, a beneficial thing. The second thing is, I'm always afraid of or worried about not be self-blinded, thinking that I know what I'm doing and I'm going to just keep going, because sometimes, I guess, as an entrepreneur, you have to be confident in what you're doing, but that can also lead you to the wrong direction. So what I have done for our business is we have 3 advisors, and I guess Rick is sort of one of the leading advisors. And the advisors are supporting or providing strengths or expertise in different areas. And they are the people that help us stay focused on the strategic side of things. I mean, tactical, you're going to get hit with, you know, without asking for it from customers and sales opportunities and this and that. And that's where I live most of the day. But having the advisors is a very beneficial thing, and I would highly recommend you folks look into that. Again, you know, and if you cannot find anybody else, I'll be happy to help you too. So I think it's a great way of progressing. And again, Rick is also another available resource to have the bigger picture view of what's going on.
Yeah, I think it dovetails pretty well with the last question too, which is, to me, it's a cycle. You start in the weeds and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you go out and test with the market and start asking the market what they think, and then you come back and reflect on that. And then you go back into the weeds and you do it again. So the balance comes from the constant validation of the idea, where your customer is at, and really understanding what they're doing. But you need a lot of time down in the detail and being able to work through the weeds. But if you're not always, you know, you can't be there forever either. So at some point you have to go out and see, you know, if someone will buy it, if there's a market for it. And so that's sort of the balance. And then you have your big milestones, like I've got to go out and raise money. I've got to think a little longer term. You know, and maybe you have a 5-year plan of where you want to be or where is the market going in 5 years. You need to be able to think that, but base it on the known, anchored on what you know about the customer, how they're reacting to what you're doing.
You know what? I actually, for the first time, left my phone in my chair over there. What time is it? How are we doing on time?
6 minutes.
Okay. We talked a lot about challenges. Is there anything that was easier than you thought it would be? Or took less time or anything? No, none? Bad question.
It's on the short list. Things that were easier than we thought. I'm just saying, it's rare.
It's rare. Okay. I stumped you with that one, right? Well, the other spectrum then is, you know, what keeps you at night? We've talked about fundraising. We've talked about a wide variety of things. Is there anything that is on your list that worries you at night?
I guess I think I worry about something new every night, so unless we have hours and hours, I won't go in there towards that. So I think just few things that I have learned, and again, depending upon the stage of your business, right now we have 16 people. I see myself as a coach and making sure that we're providing the right environment for people to come in and contribute. That's what I focus and worry about. And then at the same time, having the right resources available and whatever else, I guess, in addition to people, other infrastructure options and tools that they would need. And just overall, I really focus on, it's not just about the business, but providing a healthy work environment, because I do value the people, and I tell them, hey, you know, this is not just a place where I'm trying to squeeze dollars out of you. This is a place that I'm providing you a place that's going to be better than any other place that you're going to work and contribute and excel in what you do. So I think that that's the thing I worry about is, are my employees having fun? Are they feeling successful? And the other thing, I guess I've worked at many large companies around in Twin Cities. A lot of businesses somehow create what I call unnecessarily needed or not needed chaos. There will be some deadlines and this and that, and people are jumping through hoops, and there are firefighting exercises and all that. It's just a very stressful environment, and I try not to have those things show up. So that's what I worry about, is making the life of the employees as well as we can. So that's, I think, you know, one of the big things I focus on.
Yeah, a lot of things that keep me up at night. I'd say number one is, you know, how are we going to create enough value and change habits of people for something brand new to the world that they haven't seen before. And so, you know, we're constantly focused on the product to make sure that that delivers on the experience, and really what is that customer journey as they discover and learn about what we're doing and then adopt it and use it in our life. And I've got all kinds of fears of failing those people that have put their leap of faith in us and trusted us and gave it a shot. And for some reason, whether it's technical, in our control, out of our control, you know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's sort of our fault. And so that's troublesome. And are we going to be able to effectively convert enough people to love what we've been so passionate about? And there's still some unknowns. So a lot of hurdles to still clear. But we feel good about how we've gotten here.
Laying awake at night. My advice is, if you lay awake at night on anything, only lay awake at night on that topic once. Get up the next day and figure out a way to solve it. I'll give you an example. I took over as CEO a little over a year ago, And one of the first things I laid awake at night worrying about was we're a seasonal business, and in the wintertime we weren't getting revenue, and are we going to be able to meet payroll? And you've got lives, families relying on your decision making. And I laid awake at night that it felt awful. And so the next day I said, all right, salespeople, you're getting down south, and you're going to call on southern states right now so that this time next year we have sales in the wintertime. Because prior we didn't have sales in the wintertime. So let's fill that gap. And so then this past winter, I didn't have a night like that. We've had payroll, no problem, everything's cash flowed. So again, my advice, if you lay awake at night, only lay awake at night once with that topic. Fix it the next day.
That's great advice. With the last couple minutes, I'd love to have you just say whatever parting words, something maybe that I didn't ask or that you'd like to leave us with. Any topic, your choice.
All right, I guess I'll just conclude. Number one, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening and giving us this opportunity. Again, I would say, as I said earlier, life is short. If something is not going to kill you, go for it. You're only going to regret what you didn't do.
I was going to say something very similar, which is start a business. Go do it. Make it happen. You start it as a side hustle, or, I mean, I'm already talking to business owners here, so you guys have probably already done it. So, but encourage other people to do it as well, and plug into the community, and it's an awesome ride.
Well, let's see. I'm going to do a show of hands. I talk the talk, now I got to walk the walk, and say you got to hang a price tag on it. So out of show of hands, who has 10 grand to invest in our company? Because that's our minimum. Anybody? I told you it was hard.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming, everybody.